Coming up here on this Tuesday edition of the San Francisco 49ers Report, the Niners got some bad news on Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Aiyuk, after signing that monster contract with the Niners, is not off to a good start. Some of the in-depth numbers pretty telling and pretty concerning. Before we dive in, let's start off with this. Niners going to travel to the Los Angeles area to take on the Rams in Week 3. The Rams are a banged-up football team. You think that San Francisco is injured? The Rams' entire roster seemingly is banged up after 2 weeks of the season. So if you think the Niners will beat the division rival Rams, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. If not, I want you to comment why. Let me know down in the comment section right now and show me that you know ball. Let's begin with the latest around the Deebo Samuel injury, and this is the bad news for San Francisco because they're already ailing on the offensive side of the football. Kyle Shanahan saying on Monday that Deebo suffered a calf strain against the Minnesota Vikings, and he will miss a couple of weeks. As for when this happened, Deebo did play the whole game against Minnesota on Sunday, 23 rushing yards, 54 receiving yards. He's top 10 in receiving yards across the National Football League throughout the first 2 weeks, so it's a bummer that he suffered this injury. He hasn't been getting a lot of separation, but as a receiver, he's had some really good moments thus far for Brock Purdy in throwing him the football. He thinks, Deebo, that he got hurt on the third to last play of the game, and there was a moment when Deebo caught a pass, and then he came to the sideline. It looked as though he was in a lot of pain, and this is yet another injury to this Niners offense, and the injuries for San Francisco are piling up here, especially to some star power on that side of the rock. Christian McCaffrey is already on injured reserve. He's going to miss at least 4 weeks, including the Minnesota game with his calf and Achilles issue. Ricky Pearsall has been on IR with the chest injury that he suffered from the shooting in downtown San Francisco from a couple of weeks ago, and now Deebo Samuel out a few games as well. And I think it's pretty telling that the Niners are already listing him out for a couple of games. That means that it's somewhat of a severe injury. Now, where do the Niners go from here from an offensive standpoint? We're going to see more from Chris Conley, a very good special teamer who's a capable wide receiver. On this team, he's kind of hidden on the depth chart because the Niners are so deep at the wideout spot, but he had a really good training camp. I want to see Kyle Shanahan get Jacob Cowing more involved. What we saw during the preseason, he could be a dynamic player in this league. Line up inside, line up outside. There are creative ways where you can get him involved, whether that be end-arounds, reverses, long balls. He has a lot of versatility to his game. And what I think is sneaky significant here as well is the hit that this involves to the running back position. Christian McCaffrey already out, as we talked about. Jordan Mason has been one of the best running backs in the NFL, but as far as his backup goes at that RB spot, Isaac Guerendo, he got 1 carry against Minnesota and wasn't patient enough with letting that play develop. He hit the wrong hole. And he's a little bit raw because in college at Louisville and at Wisconsin, he didn't play a lot. His first collegiate start was in his last college game in the bowl game. So Deebo is getting RB2 snaps, and that adds a wrinkle to this Niners offense, something that the defense has to account for. That's out of the window. So this hurts your running game too, and we know that Brock Purdy has struggled throughout his career when Deebo Samuel has not been on the field. Last year, that was apparent when Deebo missed a couple of games, and this Niners offense went on that 3-game losing streak. So there is pressure on Brock Purdy right now going into Week 3 where adversity is already hitting. Injuries are mounting up for San Francisco because he has no Christian McCaffrey, the reigning NFL Offensive Player of the Year, who is such a dynamic weapon in the run game and in the pass game. We've already seen how this Niners offense has missed him, both as an overall weapon in running the ball, but also being a receiver out of the backfield. Teams have really defended the long pass for San Francisco because they know that underneath there is no threat of McCaffrey being there. And Jordan Mason isn't really a receiving back. Brock Purdy also will not have Deebo for a couple of games. They've linked up a lot to start the year because Brandon Aiyuk admitted he's playing at about an 85% level right now as far as his conditioning goes, and Trent Williams is not where he needs to be. So Brock Purdy's in a contract year here. He's looking to get a bag. Now is his opportunity to prove to everybody, the detractors, that he is in fact legit, because he's going to have to carry this offense without some marquee players on that side of the ball. And another concern with this is that Deebo continues to be injury prone. His games by year, 2019 he plays 15, 11 starts. That was his rookie year after being a second-round pick out of South Carolina. In 2020, he got banged up, only played 7 games, 5 starts. In year 3, he knew it was a contract year for him, right? And he was an all-pro that year. 16 games, 15 starts. He gets paid, and he wasn't in great shape for all of 2022. He also missed time. 13 games, 12 starts. And then last year, he missed a couple of games as well. 15 games, 15 starts. But once again, it wasn't that dynamic Deebo that we saw in 2021. And here's the truth about Deebo Samuel that a lot of pro-Deebo stands won't be willing to talk about or admit, and we can't have enough open-minded conversations these days without people getting butthurt. But since he was an all-pro in 2021, and since Deebo Samuel got paid, he has been a disappointment for the price point and the investment that the Niners have made in him. He got paid after that all-pro campaign in 2021. And since then, his production has been lackluster. He's been banged up, and at moments, he has looked out of shape. His last 4 years, receiving numbers here, great year in 2021. He put the offense on his back. He was a big reason why the Niners were able to turn it around from going 3-5 to making it to the NFC Championship game when they went on that tear from the midway point of the year through the playoffs. And then stunned Green Bay and Dallas in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs before losing to the Rams in the NFC Championship game. 77 catches, 1,400 plus yards, 6 touchdowns that year. Then he gets paid, and the following year, 632 receiving yards. Yards per catch goes down to 11.3 after leading the league in that category the year prior, and 2 touchdowns. And then last year, he did have more than 1,000 all-purpose yards, but this is a player now who has eclipsed 1,000 receiving yards once in his career. And of course, he is a very unique weapon because of his ability to run the football. But again, since that all-pro season in 2021, where he averaged 6.2 yards per carry and 365 yards total on the ground, his rushing numbers have also declined. Now, he's always a threat for total touchdowns because he's so unique in that way. And Deebo was 10th in receiving yards after 2 weeks after he had had a really good training camp and looked to be in shape. But now, he's injured once again. And that's bad news for San Francisco because of the importance that he has on that side of the ball and them already being without Christian McCaffrey. So, talked about Deebo here on the program. Coming up next, Brandon Aiyuk is not off to a good start. His separation numbers aren't good. His overall production not good. And he revealed something very, very interesting. We're going to talk about that coming up here just around the corner. But first, I want to tell you about ZBiotics, and you can get 15% off if you go to zbiotics.com/chatsports or you scan the QR code, which is on your screen right now. The ZBiotics pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. I know a lot of us have faced that, right? When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. And just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol. Drink responsibly and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Have you ever skipped a workout because of drinks the night before? I'm on this running streak more than 500 days. I can't afford to do that, but I hate feeling awful the next day. That's why ZBiotics has really changed everything for me. First time I tried it was a couple of years ago, and as instructed, I drank a bottle of pre-alcohol before any alcohol. I was amazed at how I felt the next day. So stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports. You can scan that QR code on the screen to get 15% off your order when you use ChatSports at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so that you can stay prepared no matter the time or the occasion. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. All right, next up here on the show. Let's talk about Brandon Aiyuk and the slow start that he's off to after signing that massive contract with San Francisco. He said after the Vikings game that right now he's about at 85% of where he would normally be if he practiced and partook in training camp throughout the summer. And to me, the eye test has not lied. He has looked out of shape. He has looked winded. And he has been lacking that normal explosiveness and speed. Now, he still has the route running ability to his game, and that's one of the strengths, one of the unique elements of Brandon Aiyuk's game as a wide receiver. But when you're lacking that speed and explosiveness, you're just not the same player with being able to take the top off of the defense, getting in and out of your cuts, and just getting open. And I got to say, this isn't a good look for Brandon Aiyuk. You caused a lot of controversy throughout this offseason. You were a hold-in, but you did not practice. You basically held out. You took the social media to try to gain leverage. You got the contract that you were seeking. You got the deal that you wanted. But when you don't practice, you get paid, and you've been a non-factor so far, and you look out of shape, what were you doing all summer? You signed a 4-year, $120 million contract with $76 million in guaranteed money. And I understand that it's only week 2 going into week 3. But this slow start has hurt and held back this Niners offense. And really in all 3 phases of the game, San Francisco is not gelling. They're not on the same page as a unit. And this is one of the concerns that I had going into this year. Because what did we see last year with Nick Bosa? He didn't sign his lofty deal until the Wednesday before the season opener. It was great how he was on the field week 1. It was great how Brandon Aiyuk was on the field week 1 against the New York Jets. But Nick Bosa, and he admitted this, was playing catch-up all year, and his game was just slightly off from where Bosa usually is, where he was getting to the quarterback with pressures and hurries, and he was collapsing the pocket that was not resulting in sacks. And the year before, he won Defensive Player of the Year, 18.5 sacks. And now you're seeing Aiyuk because, like Bosa, he didn't practice all summer. His game is just a little bit off. And through 2 games, this is not what you're paying your number 1 wide receiver $30 million per year for. 6 catches, 71 yards, no touchdowns. His longest catch, 22 yards. And his average separation is the 4th lowest in the National Football League. Now, it is important to note that receiver target separation factors in when a player is targeted. And Brandon Aiyuk has not been targeted a lot throughout the first 2 games. Purdy was also late to see him on that potential touchdown when he rolled left and threw it to Aiyuk, who was running toward that boundary. But Aiyuk also dropped a dime of a throw from Brock Purdy in week 1. And I got really angry during the watch party when Aiyuk dropped that ball. And Peyton Manning was with me. That's when I know I'm on the right side, because Peyton Manning even said, that's why you got to get that deal done. You have to practice, because if you do, you don't drop that football. Moving forward, Kyle Shanahan does have to start targeting him more. I think that he should be more of a focal point of this offense. And now, without Deebo Samuel, without Christian McCaffrey, the Niners have no other choice but to do that. And it's up to Aiyuk to play better and get in shape and kick it into high gear. Grade Aiyuk's first 2 games. A, B, C, D, or F. Get those pens out. Be the grader. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for all your support here on the Niners Report. We're going to continue to keep it moving.